A super smart attacking trick is what you're gonna see in this video. That's the chess content, and it surprised one of the best players in the world, and White won a very fast game. And it's a trick you can also use. But before we see the game, I'm gonna talk a little bit about the situation with Ukraine and Russia and the chess world. It is no surprise or for anyone anymore, or it's not unknown that Russia has attacked Ukraine, and it's not on the chessboard. It's a real attack. They are bombing people, and there are a lot of soldiers on the ground, and it's a terrible situation for everybody. And frankly, to be honest, I don't understand why Putin did this, but that's not the subject of this matter. But if he was a chess player, he would not have done that, because how he's going to keep Ukraine? What's going to be the end game? What's the next scenario? It's hard to see, even if he wins the war, how he's going to win the next phase. We just saw that the U.S. won the war in Iraq and won the war in Afghanistan, but what wins it turns out to be. So he's setting himself up for a big failure, but of course it's going to be a lot of suffering, a lot of casualties before we get to that point where he shoots himself in the bunker. Anyway, that was not what I'm going to talk about. The thing is, Russia is a major chess force in the world, and so is Ukraine. Ukraine just won the European Championship, and they have always been two of the biggest chess countries in Europe, and they are at war, and they're probably not going to be friends anymore. So what to do? And everybody agrees, at least if you're not Russian, that it's Russia's fault that this has happened, and they are to blame. So Russia has been banned by the European Chess Union or Federation or whatever it's called, and they are under severe pressure for the same thing in FIDE, the World Chess Organization. The problem is, of course, that Arkady Dvorkovich is the FIDE president. He was a good friend of Putin. I'm not sure he is such a big friend anymore. He is fighting for his political life. Of course, can he sit there? I don't think he will be able to do that, but it will take some time. And of course, there are a lot of Russian officials who will fight for their life and try to make this sort of play out in a way that they don't have to go. The thing FIDE has done so far is to let Russian players participate under a FIDE flag. Now, that is to sort of a weird solution, but of course the rationale or the logic behind it is that the Russian players are not to blame for their country's crazy war, and that is sort of correct. But it's also not correct, because somebody's gonna pay for it, and it's your country that's going to war with another country, so it's gonna land on you no matter what. That it's just not it's not going to cost you anything. Well, you have to overthrow your government if you don't like what they're doing, in my opinion. So I think it's just tough luck, and I don't think they should be allowed to play under FIDE flag, even though I understand that most of these players are probably against the war. But it's still their problem. We're not in the 30s or 40s. We were not going to let Germans play anything. And I think Alexandr played some tournaments with Germans and was really hard condemned. So this is not a solution that's going to last. At the moment in Berlin, they are playing, and I think 5 out of 16 players are Russians. That's a lot of Russians, and they are playing on the FIDE flag, and one of the players is Alexandr Predke, and I don't know how he stand on the war. I think most Russians, even a guy like Grishuk that mostly agree with Russian nationalism, is against the war. So I think most of them are probably not liking the war. but I'm still surprised they're allowed to play, and I don't think that will stand for long. I think something will have to give in there. We will have to resolve the situation somewhat. When we have an aggression war in Europe that has not seen wars like that since the Second World War, I don't think it's a sustainable situation that they play under FIDE flag. So that's my and GM Talks opinion on this matter. And I'm of course sorry for the Russian players, but I'm more sorry for the Ukrainians that have to flee their country and are getting killed and so on. It's a bad situation anyway. And a very, very sad one. Okay, let's see the game, because this Predke guy, he did something very smart against Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, who's a strong player and who had a bad day. So let's see the game. It started out with knight f3, c5, and c5 is a good move if you're not afraid of playing as Sicilian after e4, which of course Lagrave is not, because he is devoted knight-off player. And c4, so we have a symmetrical English, and this is I don't remember the name of the variation, but some sort of a four knights with and I think this system is a little bit tricky for black. I have played it with black a few times, or a few times with white as well, and I don't really trust it for black. I think white has a lot of interesting possibilities, and black is just always somewhat behind in development and trying to catch up, and this bishop down here often get buried and never moves if something goes wrong, which is, by the way, what happens in this game. White has a lot of options here. A very solid move is bishop f4. Another move is knight db5. d3 is the main line which he played, but you can also play a3 here, which is also one of the main lines and not bad. By the way, you can also, in this position, you can also play e4 and transpose into a Sicilian. And then after something like this, black should probably take with the pawn, because the ending after d takes seems to be better for white. I won that ending against Alan Stieg Rasmussen at some point. Okay, so g3 is what he played. Queen b6, kicking the knight, and this is definitely the main line. Knight db5. There are some weak squares here, and but okay, white is not ready to castle either, and knight e5 does hit the pawn. Get ready for maybe this move, and attacks and covers this square here. So it looks like a good move. Bishop f4, that's the kind of thing we because okay, you can take, and queen c6 maybe not so interesting anymore, and the knight is under attack, and you're moving the pieces a lot here, and you have to play probably this move, but okay, maybe you're attacking here, but then I'm always afraid that somehow white can sacrifice that pawn. He does that in some lines, but here he plays e3, and is basically threatening h3, winning a piece. a6, hitting the knight, and if it has to go, then black is probably fine. He will have time to do, for instance, something like this move and stabilize everything, and then he will have a nice position. Queen a4, there is a pin on the rook, and it also covers the pawn, and get ready for this move. A natural move here would be something like rook b8, g5, very typical for Vachier-Lagrave. The computer likes this move, so it's not a bad move, but it's the kind of move which makes me think I don't like black's position, because I don't like to make moves like that. Anyway, the tactical justification for the move is this, and the bishop is hanging here with a check on the king as well. Okay, bishop takes e5, knight takes e5, and black is getting ready to move the rook and play, and then maybe this will hang, and or also this move could be interesting. So white probably have to castle queenside, getting the rook into the action, even though it's not serious yet. And rook b8, black gets tired of the knight standing on this square. Knight d4, also very natural. Bishop d7, also a natural move. Queen c2, makes sense. The queen was not doing much here either, and white needs to sort of prepare an attack on the king. And here black makes a very instructive mistake. There are a lot of good moves here. You could play queen c7 or something. You could play d6 maybe. You can maybe even play h5 or something. I don't know. I think I would probably play queen c7, saying, okay, if I do this, then there might later be something here. And also, this is just a nice square for the queen in Sicilian structures. It covers a lot of squares, and it's relatively safe there. But black made a mistake. He played castle. By the way, playing against players with a FIDE flag, I think it's annoying. I don't like to play in games where I somehow feel that the opponents should not be there. It's strange, but probably some of you have felt the same. You're playing Blitz online and you meet a Russian player, and even though they're probably just as horrified by the war as you are, and are just trying to make time go by and not do anything and just playing Blitz and forget about the world, but you still feel like if you lose a bad game, like saying something, you Russian bastard or something, why are you attacking Ukraine? And probably a lot of people feel like that, which is of course a little bit bad, but that's maybe also why I don't think this FIDE flag solution works. Anyway, white has a very strong move, and if you can find this move, I think you have the potential to become an IM, because it's a very difficult move to find, and I'm sure that Vachier-Lagrave totally overlooked it. He's always calculating a lot of variations, but here I think he simply missed that after the move, and you're ready. If you're not ready for the move, then pause the video. d4. And this is a really smart attacking trick. The idea is simply to play h4 next, and after that, black will have to accept that the h file is open. The thing is, if you play h4 immediately, black of course go g4, and your whole structure is sort of stopped on the black square. Even though it looks like you have a good bishop, you can't really make any headway, and you cannot open files on the queen side. So g4 is a monster move. Black should probably play something like knight d6, even though it looks very suspicious, and probably white will go h4 anyway. And then if you take, then f4, and all hell might break loose very soon in that situation. I don't like it for black at all. It doesn't look like it will ever work, and white for sure has a huge initiative. But he took the pawn, and I think he's already lost after h4. White has a solid king, and black's king side is simply collapsing. We see that the queen is doing a wonderful job here, both defending everything, defending b2, defending f2, and attacking on h7. D takes, rook takes, a double attack, and white is just ready to pile everything into the king side. So f5, bishop e2, not worrying about pawns. If he takes here, he will just go to, I think, g1 or something, and bad thing will happen to black for sure. This is not a sustainable situation. And look at this bishop here. It's so far from getting into the game. Knight f6, E4, opening more files and or lines, or what's called. I don't know. F takes, knight takes, bishop takes, rook d1, check, and of course king h8, knight d5 is winning at least a rook. So so king f7 is necessary, and here white has a strong move. And I'll give you a chance to see it. Yes, and it's the kind of move you feel in your hands. It's just like, oh yeah, that looks good. It's just like, that feels right. That feels just like it should be. So c5, and now it's just all over. The queen has to stay connected to this guy, otherwise a check here or here will win the bishop by the. I'll make that yellow. But what about the knight? Well, queen b4 and a3, and the thing is, what you have to see is if he takes here, queen takes, bishop takes, king takes, f takes. With, if you count the pawn, black has 3 pawns more at the moment. Okay, white could take one back, but he's not going to take a pawn. He's going to give a check. A really nasty check, and no matter what black does, he's going to lose the rook on f8 because king somewhere, you go here, then comes this move, and then rook g7, or here, and then this move, and this move, and this move. It doesn't change much. We'll end in this position, and this, of course, is with a clear rook more is easily winning for the FIDE player Predke, who got a great start from the Berlin tournament. He's not going to win it though. But it was nice for him. Anyway, this was a slightly different video. Usually we don't have strong opinions on GM Talks. We like to have a nice time, not a horrible time. But at the moment, the world is not such a great place, it seems. Very sad. FIDE's motto is something like gens una sumus, I think translating into something like we are all one big family, and this is definitely not the case at the moment. At least it's a murderous family, because one side of the family is killing the other. This was GM Talks. Thank you for watching.